Turn, right turn once again. Easy. Current course 280, which I know is pretty much due west. All right. Oh, teardrop. All right. Direct. Teardrop. So here we see the introduction, or maybe I should show you the very first page so you know exactly how that looks like. So here we go. This is the latest version. What? Pardon me?
Which document?
This is the ACL private pilot. If you type that in, you have it also in your offline document. For example, let's see, I go to Google, and all I really need to do is type in ACS private pilot, and you get one right away for private pilot for airplane category. That's your category, right? And there's November 2023. That's the latest version. And this is how it's referred to. This is FAA ACS 6C. 6 Charlie stands for the private pilot airplane category. Okay. So if we're looking at this, we will go ahead and look at the introduction so you know why they even come up with this. Let's look at the introduction. Introduction 2. So the goal of the airman certification process is to ensure the applicant possesses the knowledge, ability to manage risk, and skill consistent with the privileges of the certificate or rating being exercised in order to act as a pilot in command. So not only do you need to know the knowledge, but you should also be able to understand risks. And later on, you will also understand what kind of standards you have to fulfill to be able to pass this check right. Pretty straightforward so far, right? Safe operation in today's national airspace system require the integration of aeronautical knowledge, that's one, risk management, and flight proficiency standards. To accomplish these goals, the FAA drew upon the expertise of organizations and individuals across the aviation and training community to develop the ACS. So, for you to become a safe pilot, or for you to be certified as a so-called safe pilot, because that's all it is, they're certifying you to be a safe pilot and understand the risks through knowledge by completing the standards. Yeah. Through knowledge with risk assessment by following the standards. If you follow the standards, you can answer those questions. You will be a private pilot. So, the ACS integrates the elements of knowledge, risk management, and skill required for each airman certificate or rating. That's exactly what. Knowledge, risk, skill. And it thus forms a more comprehensive standard for what an applicant must know, consider, and due to demonstrate proficiency to pass the test required for the issuance of the applicable airman certificate or rating. Okay, pretty straightforward. This is the potential of what might be asked or what will be, how you will be judged when doing certain things. Okay, for example, pre-flight preparation, area of operation number 1, right? Task A is going to be pilot qualifications. So there you see there's a knowledge part, something you have to know. There's a risk assessment part, something where you can potentially fall into a risk of. And there's a skill part, okay? Something you have to know, something you have to be aware of, and something you can show. So for example, in the knowledge part, the applicant demonstrates understanding of certification requirements, recent flight experience, and record keeping. Privileges and limitation. What's the difference between a privilege and what kind of limitations? Like as a private pilot, what's your privilege and what's your limitation, right? Your privilege is you can carry friends or passengers with you. Your limitation is you cannot ask for money. That's a privilege and limitation. So they can ask you right off the bat, and usually this is how it starts, right?
Did you mention pro rata share?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's not really a privilege, but you cannot request it. But if your friends are asking to share with you the cost, you can offer pro rata share. Correct. So medical certificates, right? They can ask you right off the bat, let me see your document as soon as the check ride starts, and that's usually how it starts. They're gonna ask you, so let me see your documents. Did you bring your documents needed? And they're gonna see if you know what kind of documents you need. So here you go, you give them your ID, you give them your, maybe your logbook, even though you don't need it, but they're gonna look at it. Logbook, the next one is going to be your medical, for example, and then they're gonna pull the medical and they're gonna ask you what medical did you get? And they're gonna ask you all these questions that I have been asking you, right? So how long is this good for? And how long will it be good for? And when does it expire? And does it expire? Does it calendar months or maybe not, right? Depending on the DPE rate. They can ask you, they kind of like follow like they have their own flow, so check rides become very, they're not really unique because if you know the DPE, sometimes you can also expect some type of questions that he will always ask because he loves that question. He thinks that's very important in regards of flying as a private pilot. That's very important as an instrument pilot, right? Certain DPs have their biases, and there's nothing wrong with it. If I think, for example, as an instructor, it's very important to always, I don't know, during the taxi check, do something specific, I will teach you that, right? Or I will ask you about it. And that's the same way with DPs. If they really think something has a big emphasis on risk or risk management, they will ask you me. Okay. So, and you can see, for example, documents required to exercise private pilot. We talked about these basic med, right? We talked about basic med and how basic med has changed now. If you tell them that, so he can ask you anything in this ACS that, or she can ask you anything in regards of this ACS during your check ride. Okay. If your check ride, you come in and he asks you about basic med, you cannot tell him, listen, I'm trying to be an airline pilot. I don't really care about basic med. This is the standard right here, right? This is the standard, and they can ask you after. If he's asking you about something crazy like a turbine in a private pilot, you can say this is not even part of mine, right? So, all right, great. Is this clear? So this is the knowledge part. So he can ask you for knowledge, right? What are the documents needed? What kind of basic man? How does basic man differ from pass 3 or pass 1? All right, so risk management, right? And they always ask this question. They will always ask this question. It happens to be always a question that opens the door to many other questions, right? What is the difference between proficiency and currency here? Anybody know? Give it a try. But these are the questions exactly.
Currency is like your legal ability to fly with people and fly the plane, I guess.
Yep.
And then proficiency is like your actual ability.
Yeah.
Relates to legal.
So give me an example. It's always helpful to show an example.
So you can have currency and last 90 days to do night landings, but you might not actually, like something could happen in that time where you're not actually proficient enough to land the plane at night.
Okay, yeah. You're current for 90 days, right?
Yeah.
If you come on the 88th day and you're current, right? You're legal. You come on the 88th day with your mother and you want to go fly, right? At nighttime because you want to show her downtown. Is this a smart idea? Probably not, right? So, and you will always want to answer, not only for the check ride, you always want to answer, you want to be, what do they call it, risk adverse? If you're not a risk taker. There's risk adverse and there's risk, I forgot the term. It's more for gambling. Like some people are like, they take full risk and then some people are less conservative. So you always want it to be on the spectrum of being very conservative. Okay? If it's 88 days, you bring in your mom, yes, you're current, but are you proficient really? You're probably not proficient, right? You probably want to get a couple laps in before you take her up. And now you're proficient for another, current for another 90 days, but now you can feel confident that you can land the plane at night. Same with like instrument later, when you do instrument, right? You have 6 months to do 6 approaches. If you get close to the end of the 6 month, do you think you're still very proficient in regards of anything instrument related? Probably not, right? So you want to stay current. Currency versus proficiency. It always comes. It always comes. Okay? All right. Flying unfamiliar aircraft or operating with unfamiliar flight display systems and avionics. Pretty common question too, right? Currency versus proficiency. You're being signed off to fly any general aviation aircraft, really, right? You can go rent a Cessna if they give it to you. Is it probably smart if you have never flown a Cessna? Probably not, right? Have you ever used carb heat? I've never used carb heat. Have you ever used a mixture level? You probably haven't, right? Your current, you can fly any plane where you want to if you get it. Is it a smart idea? Probably not, right? So these are the examples that you will bring, or they will ask you, and they will ask you, do you think when I give you today the certificate, and you fly to Minnesota because you're from Minnesota for whatever reason, they don't have any slings, but you're certified general aviation aircraft, pilot, right? And you can see that they have a Cessna. You've never flown it. You watch a couple of videos. Would you fly it? Obviously, the answer is no. Right? All right, the applicant exhibits the skill to apply requirements to act as PIC on the visual flight in a scenario given by the evaluator. That's where your navlog comes into play. They're going to ask you, would you fly today, depending on this navlog that I had you fill out, would you actually go out and fly? And your decision is going to be based on weather and this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say yes or no. Right? Is this making sense?
Mm.
All right, sweet. So now we have knowledge, risk, and skill. Knowledge, risk, skill. And this will follow through the entire ACS. It's always knowledge, risk, skill. What do you need to know? How can you already see a problem coming up? And then the last one, how can you actually perform, right? All right, so airworthiness requirements, I'm not going to go over all of them, right? They can ask you multiple things. You see here, do we have an MEL? What's the difference between a KTOA and an MEL, right? This is all knowledge. And then the risk inoperative equipment discovered prior to flight. How would you deal with this, right?
Mm.
You probably do those 4 things. You mark it, you deactivate it, you squawk it, you put a sticker on it or something like that, right? These are the risk management. And the skills, locate and describe airplane airworthiness and registration information. They can tell you, for example, during pre-flight, let me see the airworthiness. And you should maybe take it out one time before you, or multiple times, and read it and understand it, right? Because they can ask you, so is this the right one for this plane? And how can you verify to me that this airworthiness certificate is for this plane? I see the call sign, but where else can I see it, right? Because each plane has a license plate too. It's right under the empennage, under the horizontal stabilizer. You can go and compare the numbers. If they're matching, then it's the correct one. Right? So these are the things. And then the skills, right? Locate and describe airplane airworthiness and registration information. There it is, right? They can actually have you do this. So not only can they ask you on the ground, but they can also tell you to show them. Weather information, and then this one literally just the objective. There's always an objective. What's your objective? To determine the applicant exhibits satisfactory knowledge, risk management, and skills associated with weather information for a flight under VFR. If K2 is selected, the evaluator must assess the applicant's knowledge of at least 3 sub-elements. If K3 is selected, the evaluator must assess the applicant's knowledge of at least 3 sub-elements. So if he's choosing K2, and there's K2, he has to ask you at least 3 of these. Okay? You see how K2 comes with 1, 2, 3, 4. You see it has subcategories to it.
Mm.
So if he chooses K2, he has to ask you, for example, what is a TAF? What is winds and temperatures aloft forecast, right? Convective outlook. What is that? If he's asking you K3, then he can ask you anything in regards of this, right? So now he's open to this. And if he wants to, he can ask you both. It doesn't mean he will not, but this is kind of like a guide. So what do you know about clouds? What do you know about turbulence? What do you know about thunderstorms, right? And so forth and so on. And the risks and the skills. All right. Can you, for example, under skills, can you actually obtain an adequate weather briefing? And where would you obtain it? They can have you pull it up, right? Let me see how you get information. Cross-country flight planning, same thing. Knowledge, risk, skills, right? Knowledge, risk, skills. National airspace, they can go on your flight or go on SkyVector, and they're going to ask you, for example, if you're on the ground here, in what airspace are you, right? That's airspace, right? They're not going to take you through every airspace. But when you're flying, you're also going to fly through airspaces, right? They want to see that you don't bust airspace. So if he tells you here, for example, oh, in what airspace are you here? You should be able to answer that, right? Do I need anything? What do I need? What are my requirements? Maybe you need weather requirements, right? These things. And this is a good study guide. Like the ACS, after you feel somewhat comfortable, the ACS is a good study guide. If you can answer everything somewhat confidently, you're ready for the check ride. You can answer what clouds are and how they are characterized and how they build and what types of clouds are the worst of clouds, what types of clouds are less dangerous, right? And so forth. What is fog and how does the temperature dew point directly relate to fog, right? Like you can make the connections. And I think at the end, we are almost in week 9, you can somewhat use the ACS as a study guide. For example, if I and then obviously you don't have this, right? Water and seaplane, you don't have this. You don't have to do that. So if I go here, pre-flight assessment, or let's go back to the clouds even, right? Or what is this? Operations of systems, right? Or human factors, whatever you want to do, right? Human factors, for example, if I go here and I look at hypoxia, would I be able to explain hypoxia to a DPE, right? Because he can pick this. So hypoxia, yeah, lack of oxygen to the body and brain, 4 types, and you can name 1 or 2, and then he's going to say, okay, I'm satisfied. Or he's going to be the one, okay, tell me he can either, usually they say, what do you know about hypoxia? And then you tell them the 4 times. Or they will tell you, have you ever heard of stagnant hypoxia? And then they pick one and they want you to explain it, right? It's either or most of the times. They either choose it for you or they have you explain it. If you sound confident, they're not going to dig any deeper. And he will say, for example, oh, you went out for the first time in the air, right? And you see a layer of clouds, all of a sudden you feel very stressed. What could happen? It's hyperventilation, right? You could fall into a stress situation. And then he will say, what does hyperventilation mean? And what are the symptoms of he can ask questions like, what are the symptoms of hyperventilation? How can I cure hyperventilation, right? What should I be looking out for? You see, one question can lead to a 10-minute conversation, really. If I talk about hypothermia, right? We never really talked about this, but if you talk about hypothermia, it's the same thing. Dehydration and nutrition, right? How important is dehydration or hydration, and how much can it affect you as a pilot? Stress and fatigue, like this is pretty much the I'm safe checklist that you guys know. Illness, medication, stress, right? Alcohol, and each one of those you can very much follow. Because you can tell this one usually leads into I'm safe, right? A lot of this leads into I'm safe. And then he might choose 1 or 2 on top of it. Because everybody knows I'm safe, right? Do you guys understand the structure? Yeah. Pre-flight procedures. And most of this is usually done when they walk out with you. They want to see that you understand what you're looking at. I mean, unfortunately, like be curious about the airplane that you fly. This is the plane. I don't know how many hours did you have in this plane, or in general?
Like before this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 You, Sean? How many hours did you fly before Sling?
About 1 hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Very new.
So that's 0, right? So this is the plane you might be flying for 1,500 hours until you are actually going to the airlines. Like your curiosity about this plane, if you're trying to be hired by Sling, should be like on top. It's like me going to PSA. If I would start at PSA, I would probably get obsessed about a Cessna, right? Like I should know what kind of engine I have and how the system works and how a carburetor works and how this and this and this and that. But if I'm signing up for Sling and I'm trying to be here for 1,500 hours, the more curious you are at the very beginning, the easier it will get throughout the journey, right? If I'm asking you what kind of line is this, and it's an orange line, and you don't know it's a fuel line, then it's already not off to a great start, right? If I'm asking you where's the spark plugs and you can't point them out to me, that's a problem, right? Like we have commercial students who don't still know, like, and they've been here since 0 hours. Like, what are you doing, And there's your PAVE. You see the PAVE? Pilot, aircraft, environment, external pressures. Perform self-assessment. They will ask you, so today, do you think you're ready to fly? And you say, yeah, I feel pretty good. I slept good last night, even though I had a little bit of stress. And then he might ask, what kind of stress are there, right? Acute and chronic. And that's why I didn't sleep that well. Right? So he can ask you all these questions. So if I go up with you right now, would you feel comfortable to fly? Yes, I feel good. I did my I'm safe checklist. I even did a FRAT, the risk assessment, right? It came out green. Flying to an airport that I know very well, there's no risk associated with it. I've been there one time already with my instructor. If he's having you fly to Vegas, maybe say, I'm not quite feeling too comfortable today to fly to Vegas, but around this area, I would, something like that, right? Usually these tasks happen while you are actually doing it, right? Like starting on the various conditions, this and this and that. And then under the skills, for example, position the airplane properly, considering structures, other aircraft, wind, and the safety of nearby persons and property, right? That's when you pull out the plane, you start off, you make sure everybody's looking around and there's no one walking, right? They see these things, they're very experienced. Like you have 20 hours, 30 hours. You don't know. It's a huge difference between someone having, for example, 200 hours and 400 hours. It's a huge difference. That's double the amount, right? Someone having 400 hours and 800, it's a huge difference. Like I can see things if I would fly with you, I could see things like before you even think about it that I know you're going to do it. Like certain things that you don't that I don't want you to do, you probably will do it, right? Like, but I can see it because the way you react, where you like maybe you get very stressed because I'm asking you something that is not like feeling too comfortable, right? Or a maneuver that you don't feel too comfortable. If I'm getting you into a power off stall, I can see like you're gonna react kind of funny, you know? Or maybe you're gonna react cool with it, you know? Instructors just, and there's a difference between an instructor with 300 hours and an instructor with 800 hours. Not saying that the 300 hours are not good. I'm just saying they come with different experience levels. The good things about 300-hour instructors, they're like brand new. They're very excited, right? Like they really want you to learn. They haven't been burned out, if you really want to say, right? Someone who's at 1400 hours, they got 100 hours to go. Like, do you think they want to bust in airspace with you as a private pilot for the first time? Probably not. They're just trying to get 100 more hours. The one who's at 300 hours, he's eager, right? Like, oh yeah, let's go, let's go. I'm very excited. I have been in your shoes like 6 months ago. They know exactly what it feels like to be at zero. And 800 hours is kind of like a nice, you know. And sometimes you have the instructor who's really loves to instruct, you know, and you can tell. Like I don't want to say I can name people who are really love their job, and I do really love my job. I love instructing, right? But I can tell, like I can pinpoint to some instructors I wouldn't even send my friends to. Not saying like, but you guys understand what I'm saying, right? I'm not even talking about saying, I'm talking in general. Some people just use CFI to get 1,500 hours and they're trying to. So learning in general does not, unfortunately, it's not only on your end, but it's also on the end of your instructor. Sometimes it's a matter of luck, right? You get a good instructor, you're off to a great start. You get a bad instructor, you're probably off to a not so good start. And you don't know until you actually switch, right? What's the difference between this and this instructor even? You don't really know until you actually maybe try out. That's why when I was in private, I used to at least fly with a different instructor every 2 weeks, just to get an idea. But yeah, I don't know, we're kind of like getting off track, but how we got off track is because of habits, right? The habits that you are being taught is not because you think you do it that way. It's because you saw your instructor doing it some type of way. Pulling out the plane, checking for this and that, right? Checking for people and your surroundings before you start the engine, actually making sure having the brakes set, you know, the plane is not jumping forward, something like that. It's all habits, and these habits you will be taught by your instructor. Is this your boat set?
Oh, I don't think so. Mine is always in the back.
All right. Does that make sense? So, taxiing, right? Same thing with taxiing. They can ask you on the ground. They can bring up On the ground, they can ask you something like something like this, right? Before they even go up, right? Before they go up, they can ask you something. Okay, let me show you this picture. What do you think about this line? What can you do? What shouldn't you do? If you answer correctly, right, it's good. If you say here, you can just pass and go take on, obviously, you're probably going to fail you on the ground. You haven't even gotten out, right? But that's probably, what is this line over here, right? What is this called? What is this line? Where do you know you are exactly? You're on this taxi area because this. What is this? Well, anything can be asked on the ground, but usually these are the questions they ask you, why are you taxiing? Or they see pretty much. I mean, if you're not going to hold short of the whole Troy, he's going to brake for you and you failed. Right? If you're not doing a checklist at the right time, they're going to. All right. Sweet. Back to this. Yeah, National Airspace System, right? The things that we have been doing, chart symbology, how can you find it? They will maybe ask you a trick question that you don't know and you have to look it up. They just want to see if you can actually find the information. It's really not a bad check ride. Like with hindsight, it was really not a bad check ride. As long as you study, you have to study though. Like you cannot go into it thinking, oh, it's just fine. You have to be able to explain things. That's the main thing. You have to be able to explain it. Performance and limitations, right? How does the atmosphere change the performance of the plane, right? Center of gravity. They can ask you. You can see like this is knowledge. This is risk. What's the risk of flying with a lot of aft CG, right? What's the risk of flying with a lot of forward CG? And then skills, right? You actually made the weight imbalance because you will get a nav, you will get a route and you have to do a nav log, and in the nav log you should be doing a weight imbalance. So you can show them, oh no, we're within CG, that's good, I feel comfortable flying in this or not. Airplane performance charts, tables and data, same thing. And now we come to operations of systems, right? Like, unfortunately, they can ask you about the fuel, oil, and hydraulic systems, right? And you will have to answer. How does the fuel system work? You can draw it on the board if you want to for them. You can just explain it. You can talk to them about the oil, the hydraulic, everything. Pedostatic vacuum, you see, like the differences and how we are replacing that instead of like the set up the diaphragm wafers and the leakages. How do we do it, right? You will have to explain it. Like you're flying that plane now, you will probably get your private pilot within the first 100 hours, usually with 100, 120, whatever it takes. 80 to 120, I would say. Whatever. If it's 200, well, let it be 200, right? If you have the energy to do it, good. But understand, right? Yeah, if you fly, it's not only about flying, really. It's not about flying. Like the flying will come, but if you don't have the knowledge, that's the problem. Oxygen system, right? You can just ask you like, at what level do we even need oxygen? It doesn't mean you're going to go with a sling above 12,500 because it's capped at 12. But it means if you ever go with a friend who actually has a plane above that can go up to 18,000 feet, you know what to do, right? Human factors, we talked about that. Pre-flight assessment, same thing, right? PAVE, you can see PAVE, you can see I'm safe, you can multiple things that I will scroll slowly. If you guys want to talk about something a little bit more in particular, we can. So we have flight deck management, engine starting, right? We talked about this. Taxiing, pretty straightforward.
So for the pedostatic and the diaphragms,
Yeah.
how does our plane, I don't really know our plane's differences in calculates.
Anybody want to answer before I give it away?
APBU, right?
A,
Who's asking? Your data computer or your data?
yeah, ADU, yeah. ADC.
That's fine. Yeah, that's exactly the question, yeah, so how do we get the information if we don't have a diaphragm, we don't have a calibrated lead, we don't have any of this? How do we get this information? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Stu? Yeah,
Or have those pressure sensor.
so one of the sensor, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was talking about ADC.
ADC, yeah, what does ADC stand for?
Data computer.
Air data computer. You remember when we went outside, this guy was doing the pitot static
Yeah,
system test? He had the hose connected to the pitot tube and the static port, right?
Yeah.
There's two holes that run into the G3X, there's two holes that run to the G5.
Mm.
And there's an air data computer in each one of those. So they getting the information still from the ram air, they're getting it from the static port. And they do the calculations within the computer, they're actually computing the.
AEC replaces like mechanical linkages that would show.
Correct, because we have a glass cockpit, so now it has to be displayed differently. There's no nothing that moves back and forth, right? It's a computer.
Yeah.
So at that point, the computer just gathers the information within seconds, milliseconds, gets some result, right? The result will be displayed on the glass cockpit. AEC.
Oh,
Air data computer.
so for the Tango whiskeys, then we have like two systems, right?
Yeah.
Because there's the mechanical one and also the
Right.
graphic one. Okay.
The Tango whiskeys have the physical airspeed.
So that is connected still
Yeah.
to, because now you have a needle that's moving, right? How is that needle moving? It's through mechanical linkages.
Yeah.
How are these mechanical linkages moving? It's through the diaphragm. Yeah.
And then all the data will compute, then send it to Ahertz, right? Then Ahertz is the one that we can actually communicate.
I mean, the Ahertz stands for what?
I forgot the entire name.
Okay, give me some of it. Mhm.
Heading. Horizontal.
Tolerance.
Reference, yes. Listen. Right. So what does that replace?
The 6 man.
No.
How do you heading? Oh, the giant topic ones. This is
Yeah.
back to the giant.
Topic, which is attitude, added,
Yeah.
temperature. Yeah.
Yes,
Attitude, heading. Turn coordinator.
up to
Altimeter is
Peter Static.
pitot. So that's air data computer. That is directly related to the
So
static port.
are the Ahertz and the ADC separate or they work together?
They work like they're part of the same system
Okay.
and they will compute the same information,
Okay.
but it goes through. The Ahertz system is that laser that you remember maybe that
Yeah.
Yeah.
was attached to each one of them, so it gives you an attitude information, right? But it still runs through the air data computer. It gives you through, but the lasers are independent from the pitot tube.
So the Ahertz is only for gyroscopic, but the ADC is for all six.
It computes the audio.
Um,
Magnetometer, right, the lasers, the accelerometer, right? These are needed for your attitude, your heading, your turn coordinate. Yep, good,
okay.
all right. Is that clear?
That's the part I got mixed up.
Next week, we're gonna have a good week of review. It's like usually week 1 to 4, and then 5 to 8 or something, 5 to 9 on the second.
So ADC replaced Peter Static. Ahertz replaced the giant. I say the
ADC is the computer in general that computes all the information given to it.
But Ahertz is specifically the one that replaced
Yeah,
gyroscopic.
yes, correct. Yep. I mean, it's in the name, right? Like, if you really don't know, just break down the name. That's why I'm big on like, know what the acronyms stand for. If you don't know what the acronyms stand for, you're already screwed. Because then you cannot even save yourself, right? And if I know what an attitude heading reference system is, I can know that it's an attitude heading and turn coordinator reference system. Where does it go? It goes into air data computer. Air data computer goes where? On your display. And that's replacing. So know what it is, really. Like, know what the acronyms stand for, right? Same with PAVE. obviously the DPE knows what PAVE is.
Mm.
The DPE knows what freaking ice flags mean. But he doesn't care. He's trying to test your knowledge, right?
Mm.
If all you did was memorize acronyms left and right,
Mm.
but don't understand your acronyms, then I'm safe. They heard probably I'm safe 1,000 times already. You think they don't know what I'm safe is? They pretty much do know. Like he has to test your knowledge. You're not testing his knowledge. So if you say I'm safe, maybe you should say I'm safe is an acronym that I like to use. Blah blah. Just pretend like he doesn't know it. Pretend like you're talking to your friend who has never been in an airplane before, right? And how do you determine to go fly today? Oh, and I look at AWC. AWC is an aviation weather center. It's by the government. It's run blah blah. It gives me information about wind, clouds, this, that. If I'm getting close to clouds, or if I see it's a very cloudy day, then I probably don't want to fly because I'm flying in VFR conditions. What's VFR, right? Just talk as if you talk to your friend who has never been in a plane, who's interested but never doesn't. Are you going to talk to your friend about VFR and VMC and I'm like flying with this pitot-static? No, obviously not. Like explain it to them. Make sure they understand. And that's how they know you understand, right? If you are able to explain it. If you are not able to explain it, they know something is wrong. And they can tell right away. I think a DPE within the first 15 minutes, they know right away if they're gonna fail you or not. That's my opinion. It really depends on also how much of a how much confidence you come in with you. They can sense it. No, please.
So going back like to the ARs and stuff, is it critical to know like primary light display versus the MFD multi-function display?
Mhm.
At least for a check ride, or is it more of, you know, this display, right, this
Yeah.
airspeed where you read it? 'Cause it's almost like everything's kind of overlaid on top.
Yeah, it's
or
only
something.
overlaid because you're splitting the screen, really.
Mm.
It's a multi-function display when you split the screen. It's a PFD if you actually have it on full screen.
Mm.
Yeah. The G5, for example, anytime you fly with it and you haven't really touched it, it's a PFD, right? It shows you airspeed, it shows you your horizon, it shows you air climb and descent, right? That's a PFD. But what makes it a MFD is when you split that screen and now you see charts and symbology and this and that, and that's the only thing that makes it a MFD, right?
And the next overlay is you need to know like lane A controls this and lane B controls that.
No, you can say it's just separated. Each one controls. We don't really know which one is controls. It's kind of like depending on the computer and
That's true, right?
Mm.
Lane B goes, lane A starts.
yeah, exactly. The fuse box is really the brain of it. Yeah, the fuse box actually is the brain before the ECU does it, but a lot of people just say ECU, engine control unit. The fuse box decides, okay, there's something wrong. I'm actually sending more information this way. And then the computer engine control unit, the unit just processes the information, keeps the engine running.
Could we talk about what lane A and lane B actually are? Like,
Yeah, I have a slideshow for Tuesday, I think, next week, if you don't mind waiting for that.
Yeah,
Is that cool?
yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I can bring it up too, but at least we can, because I'm giving you guys homework on Monday and then Tuesday we can touch on the systems.
That was confusing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, even like in pre-flight,
yeah.
right, most stuff is like, you know, why are you checking your people to?
Yeah, I mean, question your instructor,
to
really.
the lane,
Like
right?
if I touch this lane A, what's happening, right? Question your instructor.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know who your instructor is. Who's the instructor?
Lutz, Andrew Lutz.
Oh, yeah. Cool guy. I don't know. Well, you can ask him, right? They should know. And even if they don't know, it's not like a got you question. Right?
Yeah.
Even if you are like asking your instructor in the read, no, it's nothing wrong, but at least they're going to get you the information. Hopefully they will get it to you. By the next time when you turn that lane off, what happens, right? Half of the unit you're turning off, but it's still running
So,
because the
Are
other
those
one can
related to
carry
the
it.
generator or is it?
It's related to, yeah, exactly. But the generator now is still producing the energy and knows how to transfer the information, right? Even though you turn lane. But I'll bring you the slideshow. We can fully like it's a pretty nice slideshow. So. Okay. So before takeoff check, checklist is a huge thing, especially for private pilot. They will judge you big time on it, right? Traffic pattern. They will see it when you do it. Take off and climb. So for example, let's go to, let's take a soft field takeoff. Have you guys done soft field takeoffs yet? No? Yeah. Yes?
Got demo, but still couldn't really do it. I don't know.
Okay, let's go to normal takeoff then.
Will they ask about something?
The check ride?
Yeah.
Of course. I mean,
Do I have to perform it?
of course. You have to perform 3 landings during that check ride.
Or no?
Soft field, short field, soft field, short field, normal landing. 3 different landings and 3 different takeoffs you have to perform. Yeah. Yeah, there's no private pilot without those 3. Yeah. And you will not get away with it. That's usually the hardest part of a private pilot check ride. From experience. The maneuvers somewhat you will be all right with. But the landings is where a lot of people start stressing. For no reason really, because it's hard training, right? All right, especially if you understand how the plane reacts to certain inputs. All right, let's look at normal takeoff, okay? Normal takeoff and climb. So you have the knowledge part, you have the risk management, and there's your skill part. So complete the appropriate checklist, make radio calls as appropriate, verify assigned correct runway or takeoff path. So I am on 29 left. I verified it's 29 left. I'm taking off 29 left. Determine wind correction with or without visible wind direction indicators. I look at the windsock. I put the inputs into I put the inputs in regards of the wind, right? You're aware of things. They see how aware you are. Position the flight controls for the existing wind. There it is. Clear the area, taxi into takeoff position and align the airplane on the runway center line, blah, blah, blah. Retract we don't have that. This is airplane single engine C, airplane multi-engine C, right? That's not for us. Advance the throttle smoothly to take off power and confirm proper engine and flight instrument indications prior to rotation. That's why we say airspeed is live, instruments are green. You look at that, right? And that's why you also be somewhat, how do you say, verbal, I guess. You say these things out loud. It's not for your instructor, obviously. Your instructor is looking at it too. They don't need to know it if it was for them. But they want to make sure that you can say these things out loud when it comes to a check ride. They're not going to fail you because in your head you said it, but you didn't say it out. And this is all going to be airline stuff, right? You're going to have a first officer, captain. You have to call out things. All right. V1, this, rotation, off, gear up, power rate of climb, blah, whatever. Right? These are multiple things that will come. It's a good habit to start. Establish for avoid excessive water spray. We don't have that. Rotate and lift off at the recommended airspeed and accelerate to VY. So are you able to put the plane in 72, for example? Do you know where 72 is? If I put that yellow dot on the 10-degree line, it's exactly 72 in this thing. You don't have to go up and down. If you put it exactly on the 10-degree line, 10-degree pitch line, right? You will be at 72. Shouldn't be anywhere else. And that's just a helpful tool, right? If you put it there, you keep it there, that's it, 72. Establish a pitch attitude to maintain a manufacturer's recommended speed of VY. So now you can go above 10, but -5. And that's what they will judge you on. If you're supposed to pitch at 72 and you're going to 55, that's a fail, right? Like, can't take off at 55 or keep it at 55. That's a high pitch. Configure the airplane in accordance with the manufacturer's guidance, flaps up, blah, 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 whatever it takes. Minimum VY to save maneuvering altitude. You keep that speed until you reach a safe altitude. Maintain directional control, proper wind drift correction. Comply with noise abatement procedures as applicable. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. This one is very easy because it's ±10. That's pretty much it. Keep your direction. Don't drift off. That's it. But if you come later to, for example, a soft field approach and landing, and now you look at this, now you got to come in at approximately 55 knots. You're going to come much faster. You're going to come down very fast. And it's going to tell you what your other risks are. For you can be ±10 knots with gust factor applied. maintain control. Maintain elevator as recovered manufacturer during rollout and exit the soft area at a speed. So that's soft field, for example. Okay,
Can I ask a question?
of course,
So our B rotation speed, right?
yeah,
Which is where it's 45.
yeah,
But typically they say 55,
55, yeah.
and why is that?
They just contradicts, yeah. It also says to approach a landing at 60 to 65, I think, a normal landing.
You're saying 55?
I'm saying 70. If you come to land, right, you're coming at around 70, right?
Okay.
Usually, yeah. But those DPs already know about it, so they will not fail you on that.
Okay, no, I'm just curious.
Yeah, like it says 45, right? But we actually take off at 55. That's correct.
That's just more of a policy or.
Yeah, because even as an instructor, you feel more comfortable when your student actually takes off at 55. You just have more airspeed. So if they actually pitch up too much or they have some type of a cushion.
For soft field takeoff, do we also start rotating at 45? Like, do we rotate
No.
every year?
A soft field, that's a totally different story. You put the nose up as soon as you can. You
Uh-huh.
keep the nose up, then you lift it back, and you just hover over the airport, over the runway until you get 72, and then you take off. You try to get the plane up as soon as you can.
Mm.
So here, for example, soft field landing, for a soft field landing, you just come in at the VSO. Usually we come in at about 65-ish, right? And you start floating, and then you keep the nose gear up as long as you can until it drops itself pretty much. And short field, for example, there's a takeoff for short field, right? And then there's also short field landing. For example, if you look at the short field landing, you get 200 feet beyond or on the specified point. They say they want you to land exactly on the numbers. You get 200 feet after the numbers. If you float to the 1,000-foot markers, that's a fail. Because they're pretending to be on a short field landing or short runway, right? You see that? And then you can see here, for example, on the soft field approach and landing, it doesn't really have as long as you keep it soft, okay? Make smooth timing controls, inputs during touchdown or tricycle touchdown at a proper pitch attitude with minimum sink rate, no side drift with the airplane's longitudinal axis aligned with the center line of the runway. Maintain elevators recommended by a manufacturer during all rollout. There's no number to this, right? But the short field has a number to it. What's the short field landing saying? Short field saying is 200 feet. You get 200 feet beyond your points. You cannot drift for forever.
How are go rounds treated? Check ride.
Oh yeah, you gotta go around. Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable, you can go around, especially on these maneuvers, right? You gotta go around. As long as you know how to do a go around, right?
Yeah.
Because you can fail on the go around too. So practice your go arounds. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of like the guide to how become a private pilot. And this is the guide that you will also find for instrument, commercial, and all these other things, right? This is technically just for private category. Slow flight. You can see have you guys done slow flight though?
Yeah.
It should be done. So for example, if I go to slow flight, right? Yeah, it even talks about pilotage and dead reckoning. What's the difference? How blah blah blah. We talked about these over and over, and these are going to be part of our there's your go around and rejected landing. To determine the applicant exhibits satisfactory knowledge, risk management, and skills associated with go around rejected landing, with emphasis on factors that contribute to landing conditions that may require a go around. They can also tell you to do a go around. Like even though you think the landing is good, they can tell you, oh, just go around. Just do it, right? And then it will see, for example, complete appropriate checklist, make radio calls as appropriate, make a timely decision to discontinue approach to a landing, apply takeoff power immediately, and transition to a climb pitch altitude VX or VY. Whatever you choose is good. Usually VY. Configure the airplane after a positive rate of climb has been verified in accordance with airplane management. So you put slowly those flaps up. Right? Maintain that speed, maintain direction control, and use runway incursion avoidance procedures if applicable. Okay, that's for example a go around.
So for the exact procedure and a go around, if you're like full flaps configuration, you can automatically go to 2, right?
Yeah, you can automatically
So
go.
you full power 2, and then
Yeah.
you wait for positive rate of climb, and then
You can put 1.
is
then
it
you
just
wait.
positive rate of climb, or you have to be 72?
You can do from 3 to 2. You can do immediately.
Okay.
From 2 to 1, you can do at a positive rate of climb. From 2 to 1, 1 to 0 at 72, for example.
Okay.
So 3 to 2 automatically. Everybody teaches also a little bit different.
Mm.
3 to 2 immediately. Now you have a positive rate of climb. Okay, if I have a positive rate of climb, I can go to 1. Now I have 72, I can go up.
Mhm.
So for example, for steep turns, you guys probably also done that, right? These are the numbers you kind of want to know. You can be off by plus or minus 100 feet. You can be slower or faster by 10 knots. And coming out of the bank by not more. The bank shouldn't be more than, or less than 45, right? Because this is the roll into an coordinated 360 steep turn with approximately 45-degree bank. Approximately. Right? If you're now at 40, that's okay. If you're at closer to 50, that's still okay, but you gotta be careful, right? And roll out on the entry heading plus or minus 10. If I tell you 360 and you're rolling out at 340, then you're off by 20. That technically can get you a fail. Because these are the skills.
Where you roll out, not necessarily where you end up, or
Pardon me?
it's where you roll out, start your rollout within 10 degrees, or where you actually, when you're flying level.
Straight level, yeah. When you're back in straight and level flight. Yeah, if you end up in straight and level flight within 10 degrees, that's good. You see, like, these are the standards, right? I mean, obviously, steep turns, they also know, is this steep turn? Yeah. You can conduct a proper steep turn. There's a knowledge part, risk, and skill. The skill is how you will be judged. The knowledge part is what can happen in a steep turn. Overbanking can happen, right? The descent of the plane can happen. Why can it happen? Because of load factor, this and that, right? Maneuvering speed. Why do we do maneuvering speed? Impact of weight changes. Why does the weight change, right? Load factor, increase of bank, right? There it is. What are the risks, the potential risks, accelerated stall, rate of turn, radius of turn? How do they differ? And then risk management, division of attention between aircraft. If you're just the one pilot who's always looking inside, you shouldn't even be looking inside. Steep turns become much easier if you look outside. So if you're doing a steep turn and you're actually looking outside, you're also scanning for traffic. That's probably good. Collision if you actually see someone, you call them out. Low altitude maneuver, including saw spin or controlled distraction, task prioritization, loss of. I have a student doing some maneuver. He sees some dolphins. He's pointing out the dolphins to me. Like, we're doing like this commercial level. Like, you're really surprised. Like dolphins. I'm like, we're 800 feet off the ground, brother. Like, keep flying that plane better. Like, if it was for me, I would have felt him right there. Like, honestly. And this is my student. I kind of like this guy too. No, I would have dumped him, but you guys get the idea. Like, you
Well,
can't
what
be
you guys
distracted
doing,
by
man?
some.
What are you guys flying at?
We're doing 8 pounds. It's like it turns around the point. Like you're there in the plane for a reason, right? Like, it's not to look at any dolphins. I mean, yeah, they look nice, but like, nobody cares. Fly the plane. Like, you coming in to fly for 1 hour because it takes already 2.2 to taxi point this, that. Like, dial in. If you're flying the plane, fly the plane. Like, don't be distracted, right? I don't know. I would have failed him for that. And many things, like some people just get. It's a beautiful area, obviously, right? We're not in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And obviously, the coast looks beautiful. This looks. I mean, yeah, I get it, but you get 1 hour to practice.
For no selfies.
I mean, yes, sure. It's a nice memory too, right? Like, as long as you do it professionally, though, I think it's very fair, right? Hey, is it okay if we, not in the middle of a maneuver, can I take a selfie in a steep turn, right? But we were in a maneuver 800 feet off the ground, and he's talking to me about dolphins. Like, I don't know what I should think. Okay, so ground reference maneuvers, for example, right? If you're looking at ground reference maneuvers, I'm trying to see if this has even a minimum altitude. It doesn't even have a minimum altitude, but you probably want to be high enough to do this. You don't want to be at 800 feet doing a steep turn, right? Because some maneuvers, they also have a minimum altitude where you have to climb to, for example, power off and power on stalls, I think. You got to be at least 3,000 feet off the ground.
Just in case.
Yeah, for example, this maneuver right here, right? Ground reference maneuvers. You cannot do a ground reference maneuver 3,000 feet off the ground. You have to be between 600 and 1,000 feet off the ground. So if you're turning around that point, you have to be between this. Okay, that's the first scenario, right? Plan the maneuver. So I know what to plan for. S turns, same place. Turns around, same height, right? But now you're at 800 feet above that Angel's Gate. So what's going to come next? Maintain altitude plus or minus 100, airspeed plus minus 10. And pretty simple, right? Divide attention between airplane and control, traffic avoidance, and the ground track while maintaining coordinate flight. That's it. As long as you keep these things up, everything will be just fine. Yes, Stu?
I haven't really done too much ground reference, so how do you know so like accurately whenever you're entering the data?
There's multiple indications. Sometimes it's the wind indication bar on
Yeah.
your G3X. Sometimes you can look outside. There's some flags that you can see at the harbor. They will wave some type of way, right? So you want to kind of like fly with the flag and then you're in the downwind. There's multiple ways, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you can see it even on the waves.
Okay.
Sometimes the way the boats are parked is an indication. But then it depends on how good of a boatsman is he, right? Is he able to park into the wind? They usually park into the wind as well. Or they place the boat into the wind. Multiple ways of determining this. And here it's usually always the same way. Like the wind always comes the same way at the Angel's Gate. So for example, maneuvering during slow flight, right? Select an entry altitude that allows the task to be completed no lower than 1,000 feet above the ground. Okay, or 3,000 feet AGL. So notice, like if I tell you to do a slow flight and you ask me at what level altitude you should be, I mean, that's already a red flag. If you want to do it at 1,000 feet, I already know you didn't read this part, right? So if you're doing at 3,000 feet, that's good. If I tell you descend, climb, do this, that, you know where you can go. So for example, straight and level flight, turns, climb, descend with the aircraft configured as specified by the blah, 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 without a stalling horn. There it is. If you hear the stalling horn, you're supposed to recover.
But sometimes our stalling horn kicks in very early.
Yeah, you're supposed to recover. Maintain the specified altitude plus minus 100 feet, right? Specified heading, airspeed, plus 10 you get, minus 0. You cannot go below. That's why if you, for example, choose 58, I usually have my students fly 58, but they actually fly 60. Then they get 2 below and they get 8 above, right? Even if you drop a little bit below, it's okay because you still get 2. But if you tell them I'm going to fly 58 and now you fly 55, that's a problem. Like announce 58, fly 60, and now you get 2 at least below. Right? Does it make sense? And specified angle of bank, you cannot go more than a certain amount of bank, right? Power of stalls, right? You have to know where you can start the power of stall. You see here, select an entry altitude that allows the task to be completed no lower than 1,500 feet above the ground or 3,000 feet AGL. I mean, do you really feel comfortable to do power of stall at 1,500 feet? Probably not. You probably want to climb, so if something actually happens, you can recover from it. And same thing, right? These are all the maneuver. This is the so-called skill level, and you have to maintain this and maintain a specified heading plus minus 10, maintain a specified angle of bank, do not exceed 20 degrees, plus minus 10. If turning in a flight while inducing the stall. Acknowledge the cues of an impending stall and then recover promptly after a full stall occurs. You will be asked to do a full stall, but you have to acknowledge the cues. That's part of it. Oh, that's the stall horn. That's one indication. The next is the buffet. That's another indication. The third one is gonna be the plane's gonna drop, right? And now you have to recover, because you have to recover after a full storm. Commercial level is different. Commercial level, as soon as you hear the storm horn, you can recover. Yeah, commit, finger ramps, recommend by blah, 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 blah. That's it. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. We come back at 12:20. And then we talk about the end of this and see what we can do for tomorrow.
For the solo part, yeah, the landing, so there's normal landings. Soft field, and what's the other one?
Normal, soft field, short field. They're all in the ACS too.
Short field is basically when you take off, you take off at, well, you start climbing at immediately at 65, right?
Yeah, correct.
And the other one is soft field is like you, whenever you maybe like start getting a bit of lift, you try to lift up the inbound effect.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Very nice. And then push on 72.
okay. Well, I guess I would request somebody to help me with that today. Larry, did you finish those two? Did you master those two?
Nope. No. I just got my landing fully down, like.
Okay. What happened next? Still take my teeth like.
Yeah, sometimes I fuck up.
Sounds like.
It's, yeah, it's not like I'm working, ballooning out and then like slamming down, no, it's just like, maybe sometimes I put in a little too much back pressure. Like, a little more. So my instructor said I'm good on landings, travel pattern was good, pretty good, so I'm having my base check on Thursday.
What about those two?
Then the other landings, we just kind of started working on them. I think he introduced me to it. Today he did a short build, soft build takeoff. Same shit. He before he even put in full power his airline or elevator or the other. They already had to stick down. He was putting full power. He goes, no, this is up. But he just back built on the ground a bit and picked it up and got it back. Second he hit 7-2, was just see me pop that shit up. That's a little bit out.
Somebody, I'm not getting, somehow my schedule got it.
This sucks.
Have you heard this app called Whistler?
It's
Something, so like, there's like a slim pilot academy. They
Oh,
see it,
no, they haven't interested. I know that shit.
Whistler.
Yeah, everybody sees like.
It says what? That's what we do our business.
Yeah. So it's like owners.
There's a couple of them.
But then like ask you questions.
Yeah, so you can break it down, that's not like crazy, but yeah. It's called Big Roger, pilots in Kelly, it's going to do it. It's got over 260 flashcards. Like all these users.
So you can go ahead and answer them because it's study and do.
Yeah, 859.
So you don't even need to make your, yeah, you don't even need to make your flash cards, you just kind of go in there and.
Yeah, I mean, this, I stumbled upon this yesterday and I'm like, but you can make your own, too, so let's see right here. Okay. It's the free, some of it last night, it's $1 a month. I mean, but I got away with the free version for a while, but if you wanna do a test, then. But anyways, you can scan, like, let's say we have our own slides, it's just scanning, create a flashcard for you.
Okay, so I'm sure you like, with these speed, like, I go through the slides and they can scan it too.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're just going right,
Like this.
you just go, you just, and it makes it.
Let me find it. I'm still learning this myself, but check it out, dude.
Yeah, I didn't.
Then like there's a solo oral 37 space things. Oh, this one talks about nothing. Okay, then I want to slip down. Go on the street.
It's so step by step.
Yeah, dude. Check this
And
out.
all their months is not even bad.
Is that when we do our, like whatever our mock?
The like base checks and all that.
Yeah, good. Long step 3. Oh. Okay, here we go. Okay, so then you go to like create. Launch card set. And this trade.
What are you guys working on?
Quizlet?
You can like, they have like Sling.
Is it Sling
Flashcards,
flashcards?
it's flashcards, so they have flashcards of like what's gonna be on the, you know, your face checks, your, I didn't know actually, cause I used to use Quizlet during high school. They have Sling documents and they just kind of have like flashcards about the lead speeds, which you need on your private, you know, your face checks and.
So is that officially by Sling? No.
No, it's like other people who use Sling, right, it's like a good study method, like you could just go in and take like.
While. A long while. Last time I touched Quizlet was almost like 10 years ago. I really don't use it during college. Yeah. So the only time I really used it was like back in high school. That was like 10 years ago.
Mine was like 10 months ago.
Dude, check it out. This is what it just made for me. I took a picture of this right here. But it just made me as
You can just go ahead and scan the whole POAs and just like do flashcards about that.
Let's see. Show you those. What's it called?
You could do the emergency procedures. That'd be, because those are like kind of long. But that's what I need. It's like I can study. Check it on it's a get down the emergency procedure. Yeah. That'd be engine.
Maybe just like making flashcards for the POA.
I'm just learning about it. Yeah.
I gotta make flashcards on emergency procedures.
Mm.
Cause that's what my instructor told me to learn from my face check. Yeah, he's like, get them down. You know, just make flashcards.
Yeah, dude, this thing is like, and then you can make the quiz, right? And then you just like.
So you can go and make your own flashcards and then make your own quiz and then.
Yeah. The quiz though, you'll run out of tries. That's why I signed up for the premium.
Oh,
They'll give
okay.
you a certain
Oh,
amount.
it's $1.
But
It's interesting.
Get over there.
Yeah, so but yeah, that's what I needed. So I'm signing up for that. I need it in my emergency procedure.
dude, yeah, what's that? I just came upon it yesterday, so.
I
You know about
forgot.
it, right? Quizlet?
Yeah, I just forgot because it could do that though, because I don't really use it like that. So, because I didn't use it during high school, but I know about it. But I'm lucky to help right now with my emergency.
Back then it was 3. Back then it was 3.
Not bad.
$1 a month, yeah, not bad. Cause there was another like option for like $8 for the year. But it's still cheaper to go month by month than prepaid. I think it was like $34 or $29. Yeah.
I don't even have a bag, it's very long.
Just look at all else you do.
But
I developed this habits while I was doing the military. Well, how one.
What's that? MREs, right? Eating out of the MRE.
No, like, I was only fucking, so, we only, about 2 to 3 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I got my citizenship. So one of the requirements where you could do your citizenship is to serve, you know. So I served there for roughly about a year, yeah. One of the boot camps in the.
Did you do flight training at all?
I was teaching, per se, and also emergency procedures, and also I was teaching the public and teaching the other army people. Yeah, and what else? Oh yeah. Using English to teach all these materials.
Oh, cool. What kind of rifles did you use? What kind of rifles do you guys use?
It's like a modified M16.
60?
Well, like a back in the Cold War thing.
Not an AR-15?
AR-15 is based on it. Yeah, it's just like AR-15 is semi-automatic, and 16 is automatic.
Full one.
Oh,
They have good gun. Shooting out the range in Las Vegas.
Mm.
Shoot all of them. I think that's the dog. Pull it apart. I wasn't old enough.
yeah, but yeah, back then, like after I got out of boot camp, you basically, if you see me every single day having food, right? That's basically me every single day in the camp. It's like I'll be teaching classes while eating. Yeah, because I stay with the foreign language division.
Yeah.
And everybody, definitely more American or Western there. Everybody's like, yeah, eat in class. And when we're running like drill trainings, I have like MRE, well, like those like energy bars, I'll be like running it.
MREs. I used to eat those. I used to go backpacking, like Sierras. Just add hot water.
Yeah.
Dehydrated food.
Well, this is exactly why I have to have it, sometimes, it's fuck it. Yeah.
Now you do what you're saying.
So bad, all that. It's funny. Perfect, but
All right. Let's see. So what we're gonna do now, I give each one of you guys either a maneuver, a landing, or something. And you make sure you tell us what to consider in regards of knowledge, risk management, and especially what your standards are. How high can I climb? Well, where should I climb to? Up and down, how much speed can I lose? Airspeed. So just present like one of them that I give you. All right, first one. Soft field, takeoff and landing. That will be for Stu.
I don't really understand this.
Oh, just off the yeah. Soft field takeoff and landing, and then short field takeoff and landing. For Craig, Daryl is gonna do power off stall. Yep. And you will be doing power stall and rectangular course. Okay, those two. And you would be doing turns around the point and slow flight. Okay. You guys can have 10 minutes. This shouldn't take too long. Okay. And then we go from there. We finish this up.
What's a stupid question?
Yeah.
Shall we? Radar lowest tilt.
Mhm.
There's no anything going on today.
Mm-hmm.
That thing
Because like, you look over there isn't anything over there, it's just smoggy today. There's not kind of schedule.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, because like I know lowest tilt is layer left, trying to
Exactly.
go and get closest to the ground,
Mhm.
because that's the only thing I can like, think it would be.
And it has one here too.
Yeah, and it's like right over the refinery, basically, close to it.
But this is probability of rain. This is directly related to probability.
So it's way on the tilt.
Oh, that's, it has to be small.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's not the
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the small one, which kind of makes sense because I think it's at 2,000 feet. Two-ish.
It's really complicated, like, I think my down here was like.
Yes, wow, yeah. Really, that's so weird. It feels almost like suspicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's all that smog's just
That's
settled.
Yeah.
Alright, cool,
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
just was looking at it.
But it's funny that it's also only in 70 meters.
Well, it kind of makes sense because the wind kind of goes that direction normally, and that's like a box canyon
Yeah.
kind of thing, if you want to think of it that way. So it all kind of gets like pushed that way, kind of like, trash on a lake.
Yeah, yeah, and then also the cone kind of things.
Yeah.
Right onto your side.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's cool.
That was my thought, but.
Yeah,
Cool, and thanks.
yeah, I look into it too.
I'm doing slow flight as well, right? Turns around the point and then slow flight.
Please. Yep.
In Charlottesville and
Rectangular course. Rectangular course? Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do 5 minutes, please. All right. Here we go. Soft field. Who had soft field takeoff? Us two.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
let's do.
soft field to takeoff is meant for whenever you're on a less than perfect runway, such as like grassy, muddy, sandy, or snowy runways.
Yep.
And the purpose of it is to save your plane from damage.
Mhm.
So whenever you're initiating it, you have the same configuration as regular flaps to 1. But whenever you first start, as opposed to only doing full throttle, you have your full back pressure in immediately.
Mhm.
And then as soon as you lift off, you want to be lifting off at the lowest possible airspeed. And then you want to level it, so then you're floating above the runway and ground effect.
Okay.
So you're allowed to build speed without contacting the runway and damaging your plane.
Very
And
good.
then once you build up enough speed to reach 72 knots, you start your climb out to maintain 72 knots.
Very nice.
And then soft field landings on approach, you want to be 60 to 65 knots and full flaps in at flaps 3. For these, usually you want to be coming in a bit of a steeper angle, or is it kind of depends?
Steeper would be for a short field.
Yeah.
Soft field would be for a.
So just 60 to 65 knots on approach, flaps 3, and you want to be above the runway remaining ground effect until the minimum viable airspeed, which I'm not sure. Is that just until you hit the ground?
Yeah. You want to maintain control of the airplane above the runway all the way until you're almost depleting of all the energy that you can carry
Okay.
for the plane to settle softly. And then you won't continue.
Okay, so after the minimum flyable airspeed, you'll be contacting the ground. At that point, you're gonna be power idle. You're gonna have full, you're gonna use pitch to control the landing, the softness of the landing.
Mhm.
So, after touchdown, you're gonna have full back pressure, reduce, the load on your nose gear.
Good.
And while you have that, you wanna start applying gentle braking, and maintain your full back pressure while you're taxiing off.
Good. Yeah. So you want to maintain the nose gear up as long as you can. And when you bring it down, you also want to bring it down gently. You want to use the brakes to a minimum because you're on soft field. It could be a rained on grass field, right? So if you brake now, you got to dig yourself into the grass. Good, very good. Are there any standards? What are the standards that could catch me off guard and I could fail this check?
All right, that's
All right, here. This is the one where you want to lift off at the lowest possible airspeed, right? Like you said, maintain ground effect. And you can either go Vx or Vy. They usually tell you to do it at Vy. Establish a pitch attitude to maintain Vy plus 10 minus 5 knots. Okay?
okay.
That's for takeoff. And for the landing, you will look at manufacturers publish airspeed. Usually we do about 65, like you said, when you stay in that ground effect. But the airspeeds are not going to be that detrimental. As long as you don't come in too fast and you settle down as if it's a normal landing. Okay? You want to keep the plane's nose up at any given time. There's also another scenario for the soft field takeoff. You are not allowed to use any brakes when you get on the runway. Okay? You want to soft field takeoff, there it is. So if we go to the skills, determine wind direction and position of flight controls for the existing wind. Clear the no. On the here we go. So taxi into the takeoff position and line the airplane on the runway center line without stopping. Okay, so you don't use the brakes when you get on the runway or soft field. But when you use the brakes, the nose is going to go forward, right? And might dig itself into the runway. So you want full back pressure and just roll onto the runway and smoothly transition into the takeoff. Never brake. Okay, good. Who had short field? There we go, Craig, next please.
So short field takeoffs and landings are crucial when you have limited runway space, distance. The time you would use it would be particularly if you're trying to clear an obstacle. So things to consider would be the atmospheric conditions and your takeoff speeds and weight and balance of the plane.
Yep.
The most important factors would definitely be your Vx and Vy. So your angle of climb and your rate of climb. Your Vx would be 65 knots and your Vy rate of climb over a distance would be 72. And also considering your airplane configuration, adding the flaps, as well as utilizing the proper inputs to mitigate wind shear, crosswind, downwind, tailwind, or turbulence. Some key points. The pitch altitude for Vy would be to be at plus 10 to 5 knots after clearing the obstacle of at least 50 feet AGL. And maintaining a Vy plus 10 and minus 5 knots for safe maneuvering altitude. For the short field approach, same concepts would apply. Be aware of your atmospheric conditions, crosswind, tailwind, runway lengths, obstacles, and airplane configuration like flaps, which would help to increase your angle of descent without increasing airplane speed. And you would want the touchdown proper pitch altitude within 200 feet beyond or on the specified point, threshold markings or runway numbers with no side drift, minimum float, and with the airplane's longitudinal axis aligned over the runway center.
Very good. The last thing that we want to add, other than the soft field, the short field will be attempted on the takeoff by adding full brakes. You add 70% of the power, you let go of the brakes, and then you add full power. Okay? The short field is you use all available runway. You don't cut corners like I always see the students do. They cut corners because there's a little bump right there. You take the entire runway, you center yourself, you hold the brakes, you put the power 70%, you let go, you add full power, you take off. And you take off at 65, correct?
It's like launch control.
Yeah, pretty much.
With 100 horsepower.
Not even, but yeah. All right, good. Daryl?
Power off stalls, so power off stall pretty much powers off. For example, you're coming in to land, say you have to slow flight because they want you to do traffic separation. And we have stop speed and landing configuration at 40 and your power is off. And for some reason, if you pitch up too high and you lose that airspeed and you stall, you need to know your stall speed because when you drop, you're at a low altitude, so you cannot recover from that. To recover from a stall, pretty much, or from power off stall, once you feel that stall or whatever you stall, you bring in full power, you know, up 3, 2, and then positive rate of climb. Then you go 1, and then let go. And to perform this maneuver for training, the requirements is pretty much you have to. When you stall and recover, you cannot be lower than 1500 kgl. So that is your requirement and skills, I think, for that. And then risk management, you got to understand when you stall, you could potentially enter a spin. If you don't, I believe if you kick out, you put in too much rudder, right? You could potentially enter a spin as part of the risk management. And even before you enter a stall, there's stuff like the horn or that we have. You would feel the airspeed slowing down too much. So those are all things that you should understand before entering power stall.
Good.
And it's pretty much it for power off, from my understanding.
Yeah, very good.
And then we have rectangular course, so keep that one a little weird, but from my understanding, the rectangular course, the purpose is pretty much to simulate like the traffic pattern that you fly at an airport. And it also demonstrates the effect of like the wind on an airplane's ground track and like the corrections you need to counteract the wind.
Yep.
And so you pretty much, I think the requirements for this one is you maintain an altitude of plus 100 and your airspeed has to remain at a constant plus 10 knots. That is like your requirements to maintain that rectangular course. And that's all I understood from rectangular course.
Yeah, so between 6 and 1,000 feet, right? At an appropriate distance and selected area, and usually within 45 degrees to the downwind leg. It's like a traffic pattern. Yeah. So that's one of it, and then maintain altitude plus minus 100, like you said, plus minus 10. Yeah. Oh, last one.
So turn us around the point and shoot, what's the other one? Okay, I'll just do turns around.
Okay.
So turns around the point, saying similar to what Daryl's is, it's considered as a ground performance maneuver. It's just to help developing skills and also navigation skills and also wind control skills.
Yep.
Yeah, and then for turns around the point, first of all, the first thing is you need to clear the area and finding the reference, which is one point where you're gonna turn around. And enter it at an appropriate distance, with roughly about 600 to 1,000 feet above the ground.
Mhm.
And usually coming from the downwind area, if it turns around that specific point. Yeah, and based on different location around the point, you have to adjust for wind drift and also correct it for wind correction to make sure that you're still turning around.
Yeah.
Maintain altitude plus or minus 100 feet and maintain airspeed at 10 knots. And usually we maintain around like roughly about 80 to 90 knots, right?
How fast do we?
I actually kind of forgot like what specific airspeed that we use it for.
What airspeed do we use, guys? Maneuvering airspeed. What's the maneuvering airspeed?
91.
That's great. That's the airspeed that we use. So this is turned around a point. Damn. So that's turns around a point right here for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You enter on the downwind, and then you have to be able to understand the wind and how wind might affect this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your rectangular course. Also, you have to understand how wind might affect you, right? So that's exactly what it is. You enter on the downwind, you exit on the downwind, you put into consideration the wind corrections, and you keep this maneuver between 600 and 1,000 feet. Once you select the altitude, you stay within plus or minus 100, and you stay plus or minus 10 knots. These maneuvers are really about understanding wind, okay, and how wind might have you crab into this or go a different heading than you actually fly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And the other one is slow flight.
good.
For slow flight, we encounter it maybe like at certain locations where, for example, at traffic pattern where you might be running a little bit faster than everybody else, or at certain, maybe you have SoCal approach on and then tells you that you have to slow down as well.
Yeah.
So you might want to slow down your speed, but since our airplane is aerodynamically going fast, so you have to try to create as much drag as possible while maintaining your altitude.
Good.
So first of all, clear the area and select the altitude, which is above 1,500 to 1,500 above ground level or 3,000.
Yep.
And then slowing down your throttle and putting it into wide arc. And then based on how much speed you want, you can put it into full flaps and then put your power back to maintain your altitude.
Good.
Yeah, and if you're making a turn, is no more than 10 degrees. And it's also plus or minus 100 feet. Airspeed is roughly about 0 knots to plus 10 knots. So if we're setting at 55 as the marking, we'll be able to reach around like 65. So 65 to 55 will be still within range.
Okay.
And banging over plus or minus.
Sweet. That's good. Explanation is good. Why do we do it, right? You always want to know why we do it. Plus minus 100, plus minus 10, airspeed plus 10, but 0 on the bottom part, right? Good. Yeah, well done.
I actually have to do it yesterday
Yeah.
in traffic pattern.
Yeah, very good. You gotta slow down sometimes because you're going faster than the person in front of you, so you have to figure out how to do it, right? And that's the reason why we practice this. All right, so that is the ACS for you guys. The standard to your potential check ride comes up soon. Any questions?
And this pretty much helps with like your basic too, right? Like just
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
like basic. But knowing all this pretty much and how to explain it.
Exactly. This will be also part of the equation. They will judge you on this. Yeah. In flight, they will judge you on this. All right, guys, have a good day. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
Hey.
You done? Sound
Very loud, yeah.
where you going?
We're just waiting for the,
Ryan,
yeah,
where are we going?
I have to do something rules and we come back for local approaches.
Alright. Sounds good.
What do you think? Should we go back to? Damn, she's fucking hot here.
God, no, it's
You don't have AC?
We go where? Where you wanna go?
Should we go back up north?
Yeah, we can go wherever you want. We
Yeah,
can go to William J. Fox.
there's the most important things, you know, we could have some time when we come back here with your like Fullerton. And
We can do Hawthorne today too. Fullerton and Hawthorne developments. Both of yours we can do.
okay,
Finish the training today and next time, yes, that's it. Okay,
sweet.
so you can look into the Fullerton BR. Long Beach, Fullerton BR, Fullerton BR, and Hawthorne BR.
Okay,
On the way back.
yeah, on the way back.
And then after Hawthorne BR, we just come back.
Alright.
And we. Okay.
All right, sweet. Just bring your cup of your coffee.
يلا حبيبي.
My instructor, I mean, he's really oriented. And so it will goes down to like, you build habits, and where they like CrossFit, and then there's a checklist, and so the things happen, where the flows, and then double check the checklist. Yeah, all of these, I feel like I'm happy with that, but at the same time, it's just, you curious so much how. Yeah. Like, very efficient and very. Which I mean, it's good. And then just haven't really fly this week. And then this next week, he's going to Japan. Honestly, it might be different. Well, yeah, but the thing is, I need my primaries to start me out, but I've been chatting there. I am getting with my. Sometimes I just need. I just. But then I just know that there's not a lot of my instructors I can ask. Yeah. I mean, like, majority of the instructors I've met is. Yeah, they're. I use lots. Yeah.
They also like, you can help them out, man.
Yeah.
I like exploding.
Stand those. Yeah, for my instructor, it's like. You know, like the answer, I'm not sure you know, maybe it's there. You know, I spent there and then, you know, and this is why. It's like, when I push it up, I'm going to get you a bit.
He's on it about. It's like, I was telling you, wow, look, that. He's just saying that, he's just telling you to calm down. It's not fine, it's like, you would never find this right here, like.
Yeah, I learned this and so if I, yeah, I got fun. I was already like, I don't know if I used to say that, I was just go on, perfect.
Yeah, exactly, it's like, something's oriented, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Not that part it's just like, oh, it's not make, it make me do my checklist and everything, but like, same time, he's like, just chill.
That's how I used to feel about what's the seriously, what's like, and then, why not doing what's like, yeah, look at this.
I think for opposite.
Hey.
Like, about, like, it's, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. I know it's like. You know. Yeah. That's just. So. Like, yeah, that's it's right. Just taking it. She like. Like, basically, that's where. I say. Somebody who's talking for me. About fun. Yeah. It's a positive. Even looking at some if you stay there for like. Well, and then it's agent something. I think it's second. I might have. Well, more to the man. Like right under our monster. Yeah, that's pretty. So, agencies, like, that's probably. Well, absolutely. That's, I was giving my, I would say, like, when I was in the council, he's like, so. It's not like. Oh, really? They don't. Visibly, like. You know, like, it's your guys. Yeah. Yeah, future updates somewhere like it's where it's like there's no section. Like something else. What did you think about yeah, it's very cool. You got like 8 hours. People. It's not a program. With like planning the world. Which is upside, that means no like it. Pulling a fucking 45 down crossway that flip flops.
Hey, bro, you have your instrument check ready or no? No. Okay. When you have it, do you? No? You? I'm not, still need to do my final. That's what I'm trying to do right now, check on it. Yeah. Let me know how it goes.
Where you been? You've been gone for a minute.
I was in Florida.
Didn't you just come back from like Texas the other day or something? I remember when I saw you in the front end and you're like, oh, I was on vacation.
Yeah, I went to Texas, and right now I was in Texas again, I was in every state.
Just for me?
Yeah, I flew.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I flew.
Yourself?
No, it's that. You flew to Florida?
Your hours?
No.
I'm down to go.
So I went to represent thing at Sun Fund.
So did you get it told us for that or?
Come on.
Yeah, I gotta prosecution knowledge. Honestly, I don't think I'm.
You want to close
language. Yeah.
Hey, Dad,
Yeah, look, we'll talk.
There you go.
There's no one right size.
I didn't think so. I was looking at the main schedule and. I think there was only to 5 or 4 in the morning and that was it. Okay. IFR. Yes, sir. One.
Okay, ready to start?
Yes.
Obviously, you come in to check the trip, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what requirements you need to have? Check, right?
Yeah. Like in terms of flying. In terms of like docking.
Everything.
Yeah. So. In terms of documentation, there's my medical. I have private spirit. Okay, so what else? I need to have a log, total of 50 hours of PIC cross country, 10 of which are in my airplane, 40 actual or simulated instrument time of hours, and then 15 hours of actual or simulated instrument flight training in an airplane. And 3 hours of actual or simulated flight training in an airplane in the last 2 calendar months, and 1 to 250 nautical mile instrument cross-country training.
Okay, so if you're, those are the aeronautical experience, what else do you need to?
Well, obviously, get a private pilot certificate,
All of this, what else?
endorsement to take the checker,
Okay, what else?
knowledge test report. Look through it. And, you need to be current, right? You need to have your biannual flight review in order to act as PIC. And, if it's technically you're carrying the DP, which is a passenger, so you also need to have done your 3 takeoffs and landings, past preceding 90 days. And then if you're flying that flight at night, you have to have 3 takeoffs and landings at night to the full stop. That's all I can think of.
Back to this, one, just on a lot more into it.
Okay.
Recency of exterior, so, let's say after you get your instrument plate. Right, and you want to go out there and see, and want to access PLC.
So in the preceding 6 calendar months, I would have to have done 6 instrument approaches. Hold procedures, intercept and track radios using electronic navigation. If I log those, then I'm connected to PSC.
Okay, I mean, what about if it's, 7 months and you're on the.
So if it's 7 calendar, so you mean 7 calendar months have passed? So then I still have an additional 5 calendar months, in order to get current. I can no longer act as PIC. But I have an additional 5 calendar months to get current, given it's simulated instrument or actual with a instrument rated pilot or a COII. And you can also use simulators that have a letter of authorization to get current. And you have that 12 or so calendar months to get current.
Okay, once, so basically you can go up or see Yeah. And so what kind of documents do they need to have? So they also, it depends if you're going with the safety pilot, if you're going for actual IMC, they need to have an instrument rating. They need to have their government photo ID and a valid medical. And they also need to have dual flight controls. So accessible dual flight controls, and they need to have front vision of the cockpit or the. Is that okay if that sit pilot flew to the base of it? Yeah, because the flight is not for a commercial purpose, you're just. Yeah. Cool. Now, let's say it's been 13 calendar months and you're not working. So then after that 12, or say 13 calendar months began, you would have to conduct an instrument proficiency check, which consists of less flights, but you're pretty much getting checked off and you're gonna have a review done with a CFII or a DP. And where they'll tell whether you're proficient or not in order to have that currency in it. What is that basically? So. Task 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Three. So from here, let's put it there. You're gonna do task, you're gonna do B from task 3, which is. Could you find, where could you find the most? So it's on the back of the ACS, which is what I'm looking at right now, and it's pretty much right there saying it's sets forth the requirements for an instrument proficiency check. Evaluators conducting an IPC must ensure the pilot meets the standards established in this ACS as minimum. The applicant must demonstrate the ability to perform the tasks listed in the table below. So they have a table there. I saw how you. Good. Can you get to that? The same. So it says you can do the majority of the IPC in an AATD with a letter of authorization. However, the circling approach, the landing task, must be done in an aircraft. Yeah. Can you do? So it would have to have it needs to be an aviation, advanced aviation training device. It can't be done on a BATD, which is that small sim right there. The letter of authorization, yeah. Yeah, okay, beside that, is there anything else that you would make sure you. To prior to the flight to act as PIC. So back to, we're talking about currencies, right? So you explain all of it. Yeah, so it depends if you're carrying passengers. So if you are carrying passengers, you go back to the VFR, kind of the private pilot rules. Or if you want to carry passengers, it has to be 90 days, and you have to do 3 takeoffs, 3 landings, and then in the night, it have to be an hour after sunset to an hour before sunrise. You also need to have your biannual flight review, which consists of you going over an hour ground and an hour flight with a over Part 91 general operating. Cool, very nice. The night landings, kind of people. No, they have to be total stop. Okay, now let's say you did 3 full stop and you
No, it's separate.
Okay. What about, like. Same thing that we can do substitute.
Yeah, you can have taken you can add a rating onto your, like for instance, in order for me to not have to take a biennial flight review, I can pursue my instrument rating. And if I get my instrument rating, I will require a biennial flight review. I don't know off the top of my head, it would be the wings program, just they. Is it that? So that makes you not need to take a biannual flight review? Every time you do it? Or how does it work?
Yeah, so basically you can take the courses. A lot of them are free, that's just basically you take the free courses and you can gain or earn credits.
Yeah.
They're gonna require certain credit on a certain topic. And you can use that credit. And it's free, so there's a lot of, there's a very good, you know, to study, you can bench on knowledge.
Yeah, I remember with when they sent like my certificate, it had like, you can now access the wings program or something. That's what it's.
Take advantage of that. Okay, the next thing is on the ACES is that record keeping, so basically things on.